In today's video, we are going to talk about Isaac Newton, one of the most important scientists in history. Isaac Newton was an English scientist, mathematician, philosopher, and astronomer. Born on January 4th, 1643 in England, Newton was named after his father, who died 3 months before his birth. After Newton attended school, he rejected his mother's will of becoming a farmer and became an adequate student. In 1661, Newton went to Cambridge for college, where his scientific career began. During his years in Cambridge, he developed the binomial theorem and developed calculus, a discipline you would encounter either during high school or college. Unfortunately, the school closed due to the Great Plague, resulting in Newton spending years in study and isolation. In 1687, Newton published his most important book, the Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica, which means Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, in which he introduced the 3 laws of motion as well as the law of universal gravity. In his later years, Newton assumed the role of patriarch of English science. He was elected president of the Royal Science and was knighted by Queen Anne in 1705. Newton then died on March 21st, 1727, 22 years after being bestowed of his knightship. As mentioned earlier in the video, one of the most important findings of Newton would be his laws of gravity, which you will learn at some time in your life, probably in high school. The law states that any particle of matter in the universe attracts any other with a force varying directly as the product of the masses and inversely as the square of the distance between them. So the farther apart the particles are, or the less massive the particles, the less the gravitational force. As aforementioned, the law of gravitation applies to everything, to atoms, a person, and a street lamp, and in Sir Isaac Newton's case, according to many stories, his head and an apple on the apple tree. Newton published this law in 1687 and used it to explain the observed motions of the planets and their moons, continuing Johannes Kepler's study. You might wonder what led to this great discovery.
Well, it all started with an apple that landed on Newton's head. Just kidding. This commonly known legend of Newton and the falling apple is only partially true. There is no proof that an apple hit him. However, Newton did see an apple fall from a tree in his mother's garden and began to work out his theory of gravity. The Royal Society in London published the original manuscript of William Stukely, which described this event. Stukely, a contemporary of Newton, had a conversation with Newton under the shade of an apple tree about why an apple always falls towards the center of the earth. During his studies of orbital dynamics in 1679 and 1680, Newton realized cosmic applications for his concept of force while exchanging ideas with Robert Hooke. After 5 years, British astronomer Edmond Halley, troubled by the problems of orbital dynamics, visited Newton and asked for a demonstration. 3 months later, he received a short tract entitled De Motu, on motion. While revising De Motu, Newton discovered the laws of motion, which you will also learn in high school. The first law, the law of inertia, states a body at rest will remain at rest, and a body in motion will remain in motion unless it is acted upon by an internal force. This means if an object is moving, its speed and direction won't change unless something makes it change. The second states that the force acting on an object is equal to the mass of that object times acceleration. This means an object will move farther and faster when it is pushed harder, and heavier objects move less distance than lighter objects when pushed with the same force. The third is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This analysis yielded a formula quantifying force in terms of mass and velocity, F equals ma. Substituting the formula into Kepler's third law, Newton found the law of universal gravitation. Fun fact, Newton was an early enforcer of the anti-counterfeiting laws. In 1696, Newton became the Warden of Royal Mint, a largely honorable position awarded to the people who had devoted their lives in the betterment of the English crown, a wage-earning position without much work. It was during the time of England's Great Recoinage, a process of melting down old coins and replacing them with new silver coins. After assuming the post of Warden of the Mint, he was determined to prevent counterfeiting and hunted down all counterfeiters.